you always feel like if the child is genetically yours, the child would be better, or superior, right, than the child. I remember one day he just called me like, Mama, Mama. Oh, my heart really melted. And I remember I just cried and cried and cried.
Hi everyone, welcome to this special Mother's Day episode. I'm excited to be interviewing, whom I feel are super moms who have extraordinary journeys through motherhood thus far. Now, introducing Gloria. Hi, Gloria.
Hi.
So, Gloria is a full-time working mom to a 3.5-year-old boy named Isaac. Correct?
That's right.
Great. So maybe you could share with us a little bit about the beginning of your journey on how motherhood started for you and what it meant to you.
Yeah. So, hi everyone, I'm Gloria, mom of a 3.5-year-old boy, as Jane introduced. So I got married really young to my husband Glenn at 25. We always wanted a big family. After we got married, we thought, we were really young and we would get pregnant really easily, but that didn't happen for us. I went through IUI and IVF, um, and that didn't work out at all. They were not able to extract any eggs. So it was a very emotional journey for us. During that time, our hearts were open to adoption. We were always open to the idea. And even going through the different fertility treatments, somehow I knew that it wouldn't work. And I knew that adoption was something that, there was something for us and we wanted to explore. So we went through all the paperwork, the home study, but at the same time, I also spoke to a lot of different families who have adopted. I listened to YouTube videos of adoptees, read books to understand both perspectives of adopted families as well as adoptees who went through that journey. Yeah, and we went through that journey, and now we are parents to Isaac, our son.
Amazing. Wow, what a journey. I mean, it sounds like, it's a short paragraph that you just said, but I could just sense the emotions of, you went to IUI, IVF, and you mentioned that you were open to the idea of adoption, always open. Was that idea of being open from the time before you were even trying to naturally conceive, or did it come about like as you were going through the fertility treatments?
I think when I was like 16 or 17, I remember watching an adoption video on YouTube about this guy and a girl who named their daughter Olivia. And that story stuck with me, right, since I was 17. So it was always in the back of my mind. It was not something that I consciously wanted to pursue, but I knew that there were different ways of creating a family, and I was open to the idea of adoption. I know I say that, but in my heart, I was like super, super scared. And when it was time to do it, I was really freaking out. I was super anxious. So when it came to the time of, fertility treatments and everything, I think that possibility became a lot more real for us. Yeah, it was like a head versus heart thing. Like in my head, I was very open to it, but in my heart, yes, I wanted to do it, but it was super scary. We were freaking out. I was really anxious, and it was really a journey, right, for us to process.
I can imagine. Yeah, I mean, it's not obviously the norm that what couples do, but what do you think led to your apprehension, and how do you think that has sort of shaped you in terms of communicating this and being so open with this and talking about this now?
Yeah, I think I was really anxious because I mean I grew up in a Christian household. I was brought up Christian. And I felt like, I always did what was right, and I think my idea of Christianity was just, I guess, very wrong. I felt like, oh, if I was doing all these things and obeying all these rules, why doesn't God want me to be a mom? I was really like upset and angry, and I felt like maybe I don't deserve to be a mom. Am I really forcing it? And so I had all these issues of my faith and my identity, and I was really struggling with that. And on the other hand, I felt like, would I be able to love a child that is not biologically mine? I think I was speaking to someone, and I think my friend said to me that in some ways it's a very prideful thing, right? Because you always feel like if the child is genetically yours, the child would be better, or superior, right, than the adopted child. And thinking about that, I was really ashamed that I felt that way, but it was something that I could not control, right? That's how I felt. And I think one of my best friends said to me, like, isn't it humbling if your child turns out to be this really superhuman that really surpasses all your expectations, right? Like, what makes you think that your own biological child would be better? And I think that really like resonated with me. And now looking at it, I was like, yeah, I'm really humbled, right? It was a really humbling journey. And I think God created all of us equal. Like, I mean, I'm Christian, I believe that all of us are created equal and not one being is superior to another. Yeah.
Wow, I love that analogy, like the fact that, yeah, we're all created equal and not to think of just because she's biologically or he's biologically your own, that it's superior to any other. And I
Yeah.
think that gives you the sense of looking at other humans at a
Yeah.
much different lens, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It creates that.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
that's,
yes.
I like that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, if you don't mind sharing, I heard that your family, you mentioned before when we had earlier chat that your family was super supportive, and that's amazing to hear. What about like friends and people like acquaintances or even colleagues and co-workers? How did that, transpire?
Yeah, so you're right. I think my family was really supportive. My sister, she has two biological kids and she's a foster kid as well. So my sister was the one that was really with me every step of the way and encouraging me. In terms of relatives, friends, I think people are supportive, generally, but sometimes they don't really know how to react to it.
Mm,
So, I mean, people say things like, oh, the child is so lucky to have you guys as parents, or who are his real parents, which makes us
mm,
feel like we are fake parents, but I know that these are very innocent questions, like they really don't mean any harm. um and I think I see it as a way to maybe educate and share openly with other people, right? So that they also understand the concept of adoption, they understand the right terms to use when speaking to adoptive families. So yeah, I've always feel like there's nothing to be ashamed about. And when Isaac grows up, I want him to be proud of his identity. I don't want him to feel ashamed that he's adopted. And I feel like as his mom, I want to start modeling that behavior, uh, to let
wow.
him know that there are different ways of creating a family, right? There's not just one way. I think we've been brought up in a society where we've been taught that there's, father, mother, biological children. But I realized that there's so many ways of creating a family, and I want him to, yeah, be proud of who he is, and where he's come from. Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's so wonderful. And yeah, you mentioned about, how people don't know how to react. I think that is something which even like anybody who has not been exposed to, or I don't know, personally close somebody who has an adopted child would actually know how
Mm,
to react. So maybe would you be able to share with us and everybody what is the best way, to actually approach this or to respond to something like that?
yeah. I would say the best way to respond is the same way you would respond to anyone who tells you that they're having a baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Like, congratulations, I'm so happy for you. It's the same way, right? That you would respond. I think sometimes, maybe out of curiosity, people tend to ask about um uh history of the birth family. Like, why was the child given up? Where was the child born? And sometimes I think it's not that we don't want to share, but I guess it's also part of my child's history, right? And I think it's his information and for him to share in the future if he wishes to do so. Yeah.
Right. So there's certain things that we should still respect as, private and not try to, be overly inquisitive and like kepo lah, basically, right? So
Yeah,
certain,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, just like how you wouldn't ask a regular couple, certain private questions. When did you conceive the baby, right? That's like
Yeah,
obviously
exactly, exactly. But of course,
the
I
same
mean, for
thing.
couples who are going through the process, right, that they're really genuinely curious about who do we approach, right? How do we adopt? Then I'm really, really happy to share that information because I also recall when I was going through the journey, it was a very complex process to navigate. And I received a lot of help, and I would love to pass that on, right, and share to whoever might find this helpful.
Thank you very much. And that's so open of you and so kind of you. And I'm very happy to hear that. Yeah, I think a lot of people hearing this, if they are going through a journey, something like
Mm.
yours, or are just even considering or thinking about it and opening their hearts to the idea of it, I think this will give them a lot of assurance and peace as well to consider. Yeah. Okay, so maybe if you could share a time where you felt like this was all, extremely exciting, extremely overwhelming, and was there a period where you felt like like full of emotions, and what is the peak of your emotions throughout this whole process?
So I think when people know that you're going through the fertility journey and when they have heard that you adopted, they feel like, oh, that's their happily ever after, right? But I think there's a lot of grief in that process. For me, especially in the first year when I had Isaac, I had so much anxiety. Like I never had panic attacks in my life. And usually I'm like, okay, a problem solver. If I have a problem, I solve it. But I remember the first year when I had Isaac, I was so worried about him meeting his milestones. I was like Googling milestones every single night. I was really worried that, like he would be delayed, things like that. And I know all moms feel maybe some sort of anxiousness, but I think mine was like next level. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat. I even had to see a therapist to really just calm me down and process it. And that was really overwhelming for me, I would say, the first year. Now looking back, yeah, I was really crazy. I was too anxious. But I think in like when Isaac was 12 months old, and I think remember one day he just called me like Mama, Mama. Oh, my heart really melted. And I remember I just cried and cried and cried. And I told my husband that I didn't expect it to be so emotional, but I don't know, I just felt like loved, and I
Oh,
felt like for the first time,
already.
I was like, yeah, I mean, maybe I do deserve to be a mom because I think for the past few years, I always felt like I didn't deserve to be a mother. Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay. Oh, I feel it. Oh, it's all the feels, man. Wow. When he called daddy, was your husband like equally like ecstatic and
my husband's very chill, so he wasn't angst at all. The person he's like, yeah, yeah,
moms are usually the more kanchiong ones, right? No matter
yeah.
what. Yeah. And mama was his first word.
Mum was his first word.
Oh, that's so
Mama was
cute.
his second word. Yeah.
Yay. Oh, okay. So you mentioned something about grief earlier on.
Yeah,
Something about it's actually a process that people don't realize.
yeah,
We think there's happily ever after, like you mentioned, but actually there's grief. Could you elaborate a little bit more?
yeah. I think there's grief on our part, for example, for, not being able to have our biological child. So there's a loss there. For my son as well, Isaac, there's grief there because, he lost his biological family and he had to be separated at birth. I know that many people, the first reaction is, oh, he's so lucky, but I, I mean, this is his story, and I don't know. I think it's really painful for a baby to be separated from his biological mom, right, immediately at birth. And there is loss there as well. So there is this grieving process on both sides. And it's not something that you grieve for, okay, 2 months and it's over. I think it carries through with you for the rest of your life. I'm sure that Isaac will have questions when he grows up. And I mean, I would love to help him find his birth family if he so wishes to do so.
Hmm.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow. So is that a decision that you made consciously? Like every parent sort of makes consciously, right? At the beginning, whether you wanna tell some people don't want to let the children know at all. Some people want to let the
Mm,
children know at the beginning. Or
yeah.
what did you feel like was the strongest conviction when you wanted and how you wanted to raise Isaac?
So my husband and I, we attended a lot of talks organized by Touch, which has were really amazing. And I also read a lot of books, watched a lot of videos, and I feel that there's nothing to hide. I think relating to my previous point that there are so many ways that families can come together. So there's nothing to be ashamed about, and I want him to know that, and I strongly believe that. So that's one. And second, I feel that I don't want to tell him when he's 18 or 21 because a lot of, I mean, adoptees who find out, they feel that their whole life has been a lie, right? And I feel that I want to introduce the concept to him by using age-appropriate language. Like, you have a birth mommy, right? I'm your forever mommy, and they taught these to us during the disclosure sessions. So yeah, I strongly believe that that's for me especially. I don't want to hide, and I want him to know that right as early as possible. He may not fully understand right now because he's only 3.5. But I think just having that conversation and being really open and honest about it, and helping him feel safe in his identity, I think that's something that we are looking to provide him. Yeah.
That's great. That's really comforting to hear as well. And it feels like Isaac's going to grow up, not being kept any secrets and just fully knowing he's loved by so many people. And I think that's the best thing, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, I think so. So, I mean, would you actually, introduce Isaac to his parents at a very young age, or would he be at like an older age kind of thing?
His birth parents. Yeah.
His birth parents.
Yeah, so no worries. Yeah. I mean I have been telling him what I know. I mean it's not much, but
Oh,
I've been having those conversations with him. I don't think he fully comprehends yet, but yeah, we have been using age appropriate language, telling whatever we know. And yeah, I
right.
think we'll just keep that channel
Okay.
open, right? So that he doesn't feel afraid to ask us any questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what do you think are some of the best things about this journey thus far? I mean, you mentioned that he called you mama, and that was really like
Mm.
emotional for you and life changing as well. Are there any other really like heartwarming uh, points that you have
Yeah.
experienced so far?
Yeah. I feel like if I would think of specific points of time, I think it's hard to pin down, exact moments, but it's really the entire journey. In the previous interview that we did with fertility support, I think my husband shared this poem, this Robert Frost poem. He said there are two paths that diverged in the forest, and we took the path that was less traveled, and that made all the difference. And one of the nights that I was really struggling, he shared that poem with me, and he said, "We're going on this adventure, isn't it exciting?" And now looking back, I really think it was an adventure. It was very, very humbling for me, especially. Yeah, I think looking at Isaac today, I'm so proud of who he is. He has a larger than life personality. He's so outgoing. He's kind. He's loving. And yeah, I really couldn't ask for more. So can't think of any specific moments, but if I were to reflect back on the last 3.5 years, it has its moments of ups and downs. I wouldn't say it's up all the way, but yeah, just looking at, I mean, how he leans into us for support and how much he loves us. Yeah, yeah, that's enough for me.
That's really, really, really nice to hear. And I think that at the end of the day, I think it's not just, people say that like Isaac's the lucky one. I think you guys feel
We are
like you're the
so
lucky
lucky. We are so lucky. We're so lucky to have him. Yeah,
That's wonderful. I mean, I'm also Christian actually, and I think that being parents is all about the opportunity that God gives us, who He places us in our lives, right? So at the end
yeah.
of the day, it's really Isaac is placed in your life. Is there anything you would like to share? Like, if there's a message out there to put out into the world, that you could tell people from your perspective as a mom, or anything, what would you say?
I would say, I think the best way to give support to different people going through different journeys in their life is, I guess, to be educated, right? To really genuinely want to know more. I think that really helps. Whether it's, you know, I don't know, whether it's adoptive parents, single parents, single moms, single dad, people who come from less fortunate backgrounds, even, I don't know, gay couples, right? Donor sperm, donor eggs, right? There's so many ways of different families coming together. I would say just be educated, keep an open mind, and lean in.
I love that. And I think you're spot on, just being educated about it, being open minded, and to actually want to learn more with a genuine heart. I think that is what makes all the difference, doesn't it? I don't
Yes.
think anybody wants to actually hide anything or anything. It's just about creating that norm that let's be open and talk about things as it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Gloria, this is amazing. And I'm so happy that you've shared so much with us.
No, thank you, Jane. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you very much.